The first book in 1981, but before that, he retired from engineering at the age of 42. Come on in and sit down. There's chairs here. He retired from engineering at the age of 42, and looking for something to do, he decided to check out his local community garden. And at that point, he really had not done any gardening or was not a horticulturist, had any training, except what he did as a kid. And so he showed up one day. There was supposed to be a speaker, and the speaker didn't show up, but a lot of people did. There was about 20 or 25, 30 people there. So he said, well, instead of wasting our time, let's talk, let's share our ideas. And so they all decided that they really wanted to keep having classes. And so he volunteered, or they volunteered him, I'm not sure how that worked, but to continue to lead those classes. And so he had to stay a step ahead of everybody. So he started asking questions in order to develop this class. He started asking questions of the local extension agents and other horticulturalists in the area. So he asked questions like, why do we till the whole garden and then stomp it down as we're walking behind it? And why do we take that seed packet and empty the whole thing, and then after it sprouts, go back through and pull up 90% of the plants? And then why do we water the whole garden, including the weeds, when all that needs to be watered are the plants? And why do we plant in these rows that are 2-3 feet apart? And one of the extension agents said, well, that's so you can get in there and hoe. And he said, well, I don't want to hoe. That sounds like too much work. I'm going to invent a better method. And that's what he did. So what do you think his answer was when he was asking all of these questions?
Because that's how we always do it.
Because that's the way we've always done it.
And then you have room for the plow.
That's right.
200 years ago.
Yeah, that was just not a good enough answer for Mel. And yes, it was because we had rows because of the plow. Originally it was the horse and plow, and now we have tractors and that kind of thing. That method just does not make sense for the home garden. We don't need to waste all that space. And so through a very long process, Mel came up with the square foot gardening. So square foot gardening is really just a simple method of gardening that anyone can do, that requires no previous experience. It's actually fabulous for beginners, and a beginner can learn this method in about an hour. Any experienced gardeners here? A few of you. Well, it may take you a couple of weeks. because we have to let go of some of those old notions about gardening. And it adapts to all levels of experience. It's great for many levels of ability. If you have use of your hands, you can still garden. In Utah, they came up with a program, Mel's in Utah, the foundation's in Utah. They came up with a gurney program where they put gardens on top of old hospital gurneys, wheeled them into the bedside so people that were bedridden could still garden, and then they wheeled them back out for sunshine and watering. That anybody really can do this. And so the gardens don't have to be on the ground, they can be raised up so that you can stand in garden, sit in a wheelchair, whatever works for you. Last year I thought we were going to move, and I didn't want to miss another gardening season, another spring season, so I put bottoms on all of my garden boxes and I put them on tabletops. Now mine weren't this big, they were like 2 by 3. So I put them on tabletops, 6 inches of soil. And I loved it. I don't like getting on the ground. It was great to be able to stand and garden. Alright, square foot gardening saves on time, water, work, and money, because there's lots of reasons for that. We're going to get into that. Square foot gardening, you grow 100% of the harvest in just 20% of the space, 10% of the water, 5% of the seeds, and only 2% of the work, because there's no weeds.
Our third workshop will begin in 2 minutes.
We started early. So.
Third workshop begins in 2 minutes. Also like to mention that those of you who fill out your surveys and turn them in at the end of the evening will be eligible for a special drawing.
Interested in getting on my mailing list, I do a blog, and you'll get an email when I do that. Sometimes I have announcements of things going on in the area. I do not sell this list. This is only my list. I have another business you might hear about, but you're only going to hear from me. So if you want to be on that, you will get an email asking you to confirm that. So just click on confirm and that'll be it. All right. Square foot gardening can go in any space. If you only have enough space for a 2 by 2 garden, please do. Everybody needs to learn how to grow. And if you've got a big yard but you want to get the most production out of that, square foot gardening can make that a lot less work and a lot more production. Look at how beautiful this is. It is an intensive planting method, so you're going to shade out the weeds. But another reason is because of the soil mix that we need to talk about. this. Also notice the trellising. Anything that sprawls, cucumbers, tomatoes, squashes, pumpkins. Yes, pumpkins, instead of going out, we're going to go up. And he's grown pumpkins the size of a basketball on the trellises with no additional support. Because what happens is the plant senses that it needs more support, so it grows the neck of the pumpkin wide. You can go on the deck. You don't have to be limited to vegetables. This makes it ideal for vegetables, but it's beautiful for flowers as well. These are just some samples, and because we're tight on time, I'm going to flip through these really fast.
Presenters, you may begin the
Also,
third session.
The traditional square foot garden is a 4x4, and he had gone and measured people's arm lengths to come up what is the easiest way for people to reach in, and he found that about everybody can reach in 24 inches. And so if you can get all the way around that garden, you can reach in 24 inches. But what if you're up against a fence or a wall? You don't want to go 24 inches or 48 inches. You don't want to go 4 feet. You only want to go 2 feet so that you can reach to the back of the garden box. With square foot gardening, as with any vegetable gardening, you want to choose your location that gets 6 to 8 hours of sunlight a day. Think about your summer day. That's about half the day. So it's not as much sun. Full sun isn't as much sun as you think it is. And then many plants can get by with 4 to 5 hours of sunlight a day. But your summer heat vegetables need that 6 to 8. You want to be away from trees, both from the root line and the drip line, particularly of black walnut. But with this beautiful soil that we have in square foot gardening, the roots will sense that lovely soil and want to come up through the bottom and interfere with the roots of your vegetables. You want to have it close to the house. In a traditional row garden, you put it way out back by your neighbor's property, right? Because in July and August it gets ugly. You get weeds this high, and you're like, you don't want to have anything to do with it. But with square foot gardening, it doesn't get all weedy. It's lovely. You want to have it up next to the house. Number one, that 5 to 10 minutes of work that you're going to be using on a day will be real simple, but it's going to be attractive. You're going to want to spend time. You don't want an area that puddles because of that will wick up through soil, and your plants will stay too wet, and they don't like to be wet. Plus, you don't want your own feet to get wet. These are the 10 basics that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to think in squares, not in rows. It doesn't have to be exactly square. It doesn't have to be the 4x4. That's the traditional square foot garden, but you don't have to be limited to that. You could do a 3x16. You could do a 2x2, a 3x3, a 2x6. Just think in terms of squares, not rows. And the method actually can be applied to round containers as well, like I said. So really, how much can you get in that 4x4 box? You can get 1 head of cabbage, 1 head of broccoli, 1 head of cauliflower, 4 heads of romaine, 4 heads of red lettuce, 4 heads of salad lettuce, 5 pounds of sugar snap peas. Does that sound like a lot of food? But wait, there's more. You can get 8 bunches of Swiss chard, and I got to stop here. Has anybody ever grown Swiss chard in a room garden? One of the best vegetables to grow. Number one, it's highly nutritious, very good for you, tastes good. You can use it as a salad green. You can cook it. My answer to any green is garlic and olive oil. You can eat the stems. You can eat the leaves. You can eat all of it. You plant it in the spring before the last frost. It takes the frost. It takes the heat of summer. It takes the frost again in the fall. It stays in the ground all 3 seasons. It's a cut and come again kind of plant. One of the best uses of that square foot. You're going to get an amazing amount of production out of that square foot. You can see here, you can get 3 seasons of planting with a square foot. So, what else can you get in that 4x4 box? 9 bunches of spinach, 16 ball carrots, 16 beets, 4 bunches of beet greens, 16 long carrots, and 32 radishes.